This is Jeff Standridge, and this is the Innovation Junkies podcast. If you want to drastically improve your business, learn proven growth strategies, and generate sustained results for your organization, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Innovation Junkies podcast. Hey guys, Jeff Standridge here, and welcome to another episode of the Innovation Junkies podcast. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm glad to be back. Another great day to have good conversation. Hopefully help innovators figure out what to do next.
Always good to be here. And today's another bonus episode. What are we talking about today, Jeff?
Well, we were thinking about what we do to, stay in shape and to kind of clear our heads and thinking about how that connects to leadership. And I know well, there you go. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Did you see those guns?
Is going to definitely be a viewer after that post.
Did you see those guns?
You're here to pump you up, right? But in all seriousness, we have both been involved in some form of endurance athletics at different points during our lives and whatnot. I know it was high school and college athletics and different things as well. But I know you're really an avid distance cyclist now. You're doing 100-mile, 150-mile rides. I'm a trail runner, and I enjoy that as well. And there's a certain zen, or I think it informs the way we lead. So talk about that a little bit. What is the time you spend in the saddle on a long ride do for you in terms of leadership, innovation, strategic thinking, etc.?
I have spent some time thinking about that, and there are a couple of observations that I've made. One, probably one of the most profound observations is I have noticed that I only improve when I cycle routinely with people who are better than I am. And, I've talked for a long time about leaders who are 5s on a scale of 1 to 10. They tend to hire 7s. And as a result, they remain 5s. And if they would hire 8s or 9s, it would move them up the scale themselves. And so as I started working out routinely, cycling routinely with people who were faster and more powerful than I in the saddle, I found an exponential increase in my ability to improve speed and power and endurance and what have you. That's probably number one. Number two is similar, but it's the I rode a 100-mile ride about 3 months ago, and to give you an example, I'm a B group rider, kind of a B plus group rider. Mm-hmm. So my average speed is about 16 and a half to 17 and a half, and that's on a anywhere from a 40 to 80 to 100-mile ride. It was a flat course, mind you, but rode a 100-mile ride about 2 months ago, and we happened to latch on to a peloton or a group of cyclists riding together, about 24, and it was the fastest group that I had ever ridden with for an entire almost 100-mile ride. And by the time I finished that ride, we were at 19 miles per hour on average, and I felt no better or no worse than a ride where I had finished at 16 and a half to 17 and a half miles an hour on average. And so that really taught me, similar to the point I just brought up about surrounding yourself with faster people, but the benefit of having, I kind of equate it to culture, this culture of mutual respect and encouragement and lending a helping hand and falling off of the front and rolling to the back and then circling around and giving people breaks and drafting off one another. And it really spoke to me about the leadership benefit of the collective effort, I guess. Those are a couple of things that I've noticed.
Yeah, and just to follow on to that, so there was a time when I rode a ton. I've transitioned to trail riding, but a couple of observations that build on what you said is one thing. When you're facing a headwind or you're facing a side wind and you've been out on the pavement for a long time, if you're doing that by yourself, it's torture. I mean, it truly is the race of truth, and that there's nowhere to hide. There's also nowhere to rely on, and it's totally between your own ears. And there's some good things that come from that struggle, realizing you're not really done. When you think you're done, you can always go a little bit farther. But when you're with a group and you've got a good system of echeloning, where you're blocking the wind and where you're changing who's in front, fighting the wind. The magic that comes from that collective effort. I can remember one time being out on hot pavement. We were riding across Kansas. It was a 4-day ride. And there were times in central Kansas where I thought, this is torture. How am I ever going to make it? But because of the strength of those other riders who were all better than me, you find a way. You find a way to hang in there, and you realize at any point during a ride, one, you're going to wish you were somewhere else. And the strength of who's the strong rider in a given ride based on nutrition and electrolytes and how hydrated you are, it changes. So you end up having that second win, and it's typically at a point that's different than other members of the team. And all those things talk to how important that group dynamic can be when you're doing the shared activity in business. It's the same thing. We all have our ups and downs. Together, we're a lot stronger than we are individually. Yeah. So, I mean, I love some of what you're saying.
Yeah, you said one other thing, and I want to share that my third thing, and then I want to hand it to you and talk about trail running and some of your observations. But you talked about nutritional management. I also learned what it's like to bonk 15 miles from home or 20 miles from home, where, I had no problem understanding the need for hydration. But when I first started cycling, the need to consume regularly calories and how scary it can be to get 15 or 20 miles from home and just flat out bonk and have no other way to get home but to just pedal through it. And so that as I equate that to leadership, this concept, I know you and I both are avid readers and we're avid consumers of content that is designed to make us think, to make us better, to improve our skills, to improve our capabilities. And that's another kind of parallel that I see. In cycling, we're consuming calories to keep us going and to keep us sharp and to keep us attuned. And in business, we're hopefully consuming content that is designed to do the same thing from a leadership and a business perspective.
And with the mindset of always a little bit better, always a little bit better. And I think we undertake some of these things as well to kind of maintain that edge, constantly challenging yourself to go a little bit farther, to go a little bit faster, to be a little bit better. And I mean, that's great stuff. And as I think about the trail running side of it, to contrast that a little bit is, first of all, a lot of people would mountain bike on the trails that I typically run, but I'm not well enough coordinated to be any good on a mountain bike. So amount of self-preservation. But what I find is different, whether I'm with somebody, whereas cycling is very social. You can talk, you can have conversations. The thing that I like about trail running is there's a mindfulness and a solitude associated with it when you're doing it by yourself. It's you and the trail. But unlike running on the pavement, which can be monotonous and jarring, on the thing that I get from trail running is I'm constantly having to look up ahead, see what's coming next. But I also have to be mindful of every footfall because there's rocks and there's stops and everything else. So it's almost like a pilot. It forces you into the situation where you have to have that forward-looking scan while also paying attention to what the plane is telling you, what the instruments are telling you. Trail running is the same way. And after a few miles in, and you get over that initial angst and worry and the anxiety associated with it, there's this clearness of thinking that comes through that to where you're in the flow that they talk about sometimes, where you're not even feeling the steps. Yeah. It unlocks. And I find I do some of my best creative thinking with that solitude that informs what we do in business and whatnot. And I don't run fast anymore. At best, it'd be a combat shuffle. Some people would say it's a fast walk where the guy's faking running, but it really is something that provides a clarity of being able to think through problem solving clearly in trail running. Anyway, running on there. But
no, that's good.
Any questions you might have about it.
I have some of those same kind of solitude moments where I'm writing and I think of something, and the problem is I'm not coordinated enough to pull my pad and pencil out and write it down, so I forget by the time I'm back.
You just hope you don't forget, right? That it stays with you afterwards.
That's right. Yeah. Well, great. Another bonus episode of the Innovation Junkies podcast. We're talking about the parallels to leadership in business between biking, road cycling, and trail running. Jeff and I both indulge in those activities every once in a while, and the things that we've learned that we can apply to our businesses on a daily basis. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Hey folks, this is Jeff Amrine. We want to thank you for tuning in. We sincerely appreciate your time. If you're enjoying the Innovation Junkies podcast, please do us a huge favor. Click the subscribe button right now and please leave us a review. It would mean the world to both of us. And don't forget to share us on social media.